Welcome everyone to today's Tuesday, April 17th, 2018. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Let the record reflect Commissioners Sobroff, Johnson, Figueroa Villa, and Goldsmith are present, and we have a quorum.
Okay, we're going to move to item number 2. We're going to do the consent agenda items after closed session. Today, let's go to item 2A, please.
Thank you.
I don't think we need a report on this unless any of the commissioners have any questions about you.
Sir, you can speak during a public comment. You'll have public comment. You can't speak now, so that's your last warning. We're on item number 2A.
We have one comment card.
Okay.
We have Mr. Herman.
Mr. Herman, this is item number 2A.
Thank you for informing me. Let's give Chief Beck a LOL, but he just walked in. But now that we're here to address the city issues of the state of dress, let's take it from this format. On April 11th, 2018, the transmittal of the grant application, is that similar to the Dodger investigation grants? To award acceptance funded under the California Governor's Office? I'm not quite understanding this topic because right now the Dodgers are under investigation for possibly taking land development proposition money, and that's usually on the consent items because we're not able to speak on consent items. So let me go back on topic now. We're dealing here with emergency services for the 2017 California Covered Program and the so-called board action, which I, the stakeholder, along with your constituents, oppose and reject due to the fact that the report transmitted by our cocksucking mayor, Eric Garcetti, is usually never active in our city. He's out lobbying to become an independent source for government of higher standing, meaning he wants to run for presidency. Now, I object to that because the mayor has obligations to satisfy my well-being.
Mr. President, the
under
speaker's off topic.
Off topic.
So let me go back
Last
on
warning.
topic here.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. T. Fank. I didn't know you were running the chair seat from that area there, but thank you for informing me, morons. But the department's report to award the acceptance.
Next speaker. Oh, do we have any other speakers?
We have no other speaker on this item, sir.
So I'll move approval of item 2A.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 2B, we have an regarding the firearms inventory audit. Does anyone, any commissioners have any questions?
I have some questions.
Come on up.
Morning.
Morning.
And please let the record reflect Commissioner McLean Hill is now present.
Here and gone.
Here.
If we could, I don't know if we need a full report, but if we could discuss objectives 4 and 6.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Captain Rick Stabile. I'm the CEO of Metropolitan Division. This was the first formal audit of Metropolitan Division's firearm inventory. There were 7 objectives that were examined during this inspection, and out of the 7, 4 of those we had 100% compliance, and 2 of those we did not meet the standard. So I'll talk about those 2. The first one was objective number 4, which was accounting for destroyed and salvaged firearms. The auditors evaluated one event for this incident, and it included 127 firearms that Metropolitan Division had determined that needed to be destroyed.
Can you just give us a little background on how one event has so many firearms? What's an event?
An event is when Gang and Narcotics Division determines that a set of firearms will be destroyed. So Metro doesn't determine that. Gang and Narcotics does. And when they have an event where they're going to actually destroy those firearms, they'll go to any entity within the organization and do you have firearms to destroy?
So they determine how many events they're going to have?
They do.
About how many do they do a year?
I apologize. I don't know how many they do, but they schedule it and they organize it.
Just one or two?
One or two, sir.
Okay.
It's
So
a matter of
between events, obviously there was 127 firearms
Correct.
here.
it's a matter of gathering enough guns to
So
make
there-
it worthwhile.
So the fact that there was only one event looked at is not unusual because there aren't very many. There's only one or two a year. Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Just continuing real quick. So one of the things we didn't do well was those 127 guns should have been documented on a form, what we call a 1511. We didn't document it on a form 1511. We documented it on a proper report at 10.1. So all the guns were properly documented. It was just simply documented on the wrong form. In addition, once we did that, we should have documented a 15.2 that went to R&I documenting those guns be removed from APHIS, and that did not happen. So the simple fix for us and what we've already corrected was we just, in our department armory manual, we formalized that process of using the correct form of 1511, which was there, we just didn't do it, and to the 15.2, and we included in that since G&D is in charge of that destruction of guns, we added them to our manual process when they pick up those firearms. And accountability, once R&I gets those guns, that there is a procedure to remove those from, to make sure those were removed from APHIS.
Ma'am, during, there's going to be public comment in a couple seconds, a couple minutes, and then you can speak during that public comment. And so if you just wait till then, we'll give you a full time and a full microphone to do that. Thank you very much.
So
Go ahead.
And are you internally auditing to make sure that the new procedures are being followed?
Ironically, sir, that's the next objective, which is number 6 that we didn't, is our policies and procedure manual talked about our armory staff auditing once a week. And the prior command had recommended that occur weekly because when Metro was assigned to Central Division, there wasn't the quality of security measures. So once we moved into the new facility, those security measures changed, and the prior command recommended that we do now a monthly audit, which I concur with. And so now we do a monthly audit of every single firearm. That has to go to me for signature and all the way up through CTSOB.
Okay. So I've been to the new Metro facility, and I saw the armory, and I saw how secure it is. But is the IG comfortable with monthly? I mean, is that something you want? You don't need to opine on it right now if you don't know, but we should look at it and make sure we're comfortable with monthly as opposed to weekly inspections. Because obviously the big issue is with all of these filling out the right forms, and the audit is making sure that we're keeping track of guns, and we don't want them to fall in the wrong hands.
Correct.
As I think you're aware, we have taken a look at some armory procedures as well around the department. So, like I said, without necessarily giving an answer to your question right now, we're happy to look and see if monthly makes sense for us too.
Okay. So I'm comfortable with this. I just, obviously with the IG taking a second look at it, making sure that that the monthly inspections are adequate, and now that with the proper filling out of forms that we now have it covered, then that's the only thing I wanted to cover.
Any other questions from the committee? Do we have any public comments on item number 2B?
Yes, sir, we have one. We have Mr. Herman.
Mr. Herman, sir? This is item 2B.
So you heard how law enforcement's practice violate Title VI. And what I am referring to? I am referring to the violation of the Bain Act against Wayne Spindler when
Off topic, so
I'm getting to the point about talking about
it's okay.
guns.
Get back on topic.
Wayne
okay?
Spindler guns is a part of that collection. When you took Mr. Spindler's gun and his Second Amendment rights away to protect himself, and Jackie Lacey and that other morons from City of LA, Mike Fear's office, never prosecuted him, you maliciously took false lying accusation against a public speaker simply because he was speaking on behalf of public interest. And in that enforcement, you created a malice towards Mr. Spindler because you took his weapons to protect
Off topic,
himself.
next speaker, is there another speaker on this?
We have no other speakers, sir.
Okay.
I'll move approval of the department's report.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let's go to, the next item is the report of the chief. Good morning, chief.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Morning.
Morning, Commissioners. So a couple of items that require comment. First is officer-involved shooting that occurred on April 10th at about 5:45 p.m. in Southwest Divisions, when uniformed officers responded to a radio call indicating a man with a knife at the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza, as you know, 3600 block of Martin Luther King Boulevard. Two sergeants were the initial responders. When they arrived, they entered the mall and encountered a suspect who was aggressively waving a long fixed blade knife. The two sergeants attempted to verbalize, set up containment as best they could with just two folks, requested additional resources, requested a beanbag, which would have been the most appropriate tool for this. Unfortunately, when the beanbag arrived, the male, who had been acting very aggressively with a knife, became aware of the beanbag and ran towards mall patrons. An officer-involved shooting occurred, killing him. It's a unfortunate incident that, of course, we would have liked to have been able to avoid, but unfortunately we're not able to get the less lethal in place in time to do that. Secondly, Mayor's State of the City yesterday, very complimentary towards the Los Angeles Police Department, expressed a homeless reduction strategy that I think is exactly on line with what the department has recommended in the past. So we were very happy about that. Part of the things that he commented on was the decrease in crime so far this year. So far this year, we're at a 17% reduction in homicides. That's compared to 17. If you compare to 16, it's a 22% reduction. Rapes are down almost 18% compared to last year. Robberies are up incrementally 1.9%. Aggravated assaults are down 4.7%. Total violent crime is down about 3.5%. All forms of property crime are down, led by motor vehicle theft, which is down 12%. Total Part 1 crime is reduced by 6% as compared to last year. Of particular note, so far as compared to last year, we are at a 29% reduction in numbers of victims shot, which of course is one of our primary focus points. Guns recovered, another thing that the mayor commented on was his gun recovery initiative. So far we have almost 1,600 guns recovered from the streets of Los Angeles this year. That's about a 3% increase over last year. Officer-involved shootings, obviously this is a big topic for the community and the commission. Year to date, we've had 11. Last year to date at this time, we'd had 14. It's a 21% reduction. Traffic collisions, also a big focus this year, and I'm going to comment particularly on bicycle-involved collisions because we had several fatals over the past week, which could cause particular consternation. Overall traffic collisions, though, are down 1.5%, and overall fatalities are down 14%. That's 62 as compared to 72 last year. Hit and runs are down overall, and hit and run fatalities are down significantly, about 38%. Motor vehicle versus pedestrians are down also overall, and their fatalities are down 31%, which is a significant reduction. But unfortunately, bicycle-involved traffic collisions are up, although not hugely. They're up 2%, but fatalities are up significantly. We've had 5 so far this year, as compared to 2 this time last year. We'll continue to work on bicycle safety and motorist awareness programs and try to curtail that. Sworn personnel on payroll, 10,053 sworn Los Angeles police officers, 2,944 civilian personnel, a little over 400 reserves, and we have one short of 1,800 cadets in our program. And that concludes my report.
Okay, do we have any commission questions for the chief? Do we have any public comments on item number 3?
We have 4 comment cards. We have Mr. Herman, followed by Mr. Novick, Quintus Moore, and Paula Minor.
Okay.
Well, let's address the issue on fatalities on bicycles. Just today in City Hall, they're going to talk about an African-American man who was run down on his bike. This city is so bad, providing convenience and necessity for alcohol. Something that Richard T. Fink and myself can relate. After all, he and Miss Nuri from Van Nuys and CD6 allowed the Spearmint Rhino to open up as the inland restaurant, for the record. And during that process, women were giving the gentlemen in the gentleman club lap dances. Now, how the hell do you mix your dirty hands with food and get a lap dance? You people are disgusting. In addition to that, as I was interrupted by Mr. Jew Boy over there, the Safe Street Act provides that no person in any state shall, on the ground of race, disability, be excluded from participation and be denied the benefits or be subjected to discrimination. As you continue to block me from my 60 seconds of time, Mr. Soboroff. Fuck the Dodgers. I hope they go down busted by the feds for stealing land that doesn't belong to them with you. You guys take land, put only white people in your white land, Jews, and me, the Gentile, I can't even live in a goddamn rental place to satisfy my measure HHH. And since 2008, when I was being detained and tortured by the fucking police, I couldn't deal with stupid motherfuckers. I'm gonna hold my time. Go ahead, man.
Next speaker? No.
The next speaker is Mr. Novick.
Mr. Novick?
Yes, the chief reported.
Go ahead.
Chief reported to you that they killed somebody else again this past week. He
Please
says
hold
that
on,
that's a
hold on.
reduction in the number of
Hold on
killings
for a
from
second.
last year, but
Hold on, I'll hold your time. If you want to talk to him, go like, you guys can go out, but just hold on. You'll get your chance to speak.
She just wants to say something. That's all she's doing. He didn't say that? That's what he thinks. He's a Jew. That's all he thinks.
Last warning for you.
Didn't they kill Jesus?
Okay. You can take him out.
For what?
He's out.
For what?
You're out, as I said.
You killed the Jews, and then you blame it on me.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Novick.
You killed the Jews. No, he has to wait because
Let's start the clock, please.
general public comment, because the Jews were killed by persons like you. Persecuted people for no reason whatsoever under First Amendment.
so the chief reported to you that the LAPD killed somebody else again this past week. I take this somewhat personally because I'm often in the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza. It's a short bus ride, a bike ride from my house. I think that if a killing like that of a mentally ill person, if you think that would have happened at Beverly Center or the Sherman Oaks Galleria, you're living in a dream world. There's another example of the fact that the LAPD continues to be one of the most murderous departments in the country, and it's based on white supremacy and the enforcement of exploitive economic relationships between the city. The fact that he can boast that the mayor is shaping his homeless policy on the recommendations of the LAPD is another example of the topsy-turvy world we live in. And the fact that you took this report without asking the chief any questions about it is a measure of your complicity with those killings that are taking place week after week. You hear reports, you deal with 2 or 3 officer-involved shootings, and you do nothing about it. And I want to say right now that you're derelict in your duty again. You dropped item 1 to the bottom of your agenda after your closed business, meaning that you're not going to listen to any public comment about anything in item 1, the consent item decrees. Don't yawn in my face, Ms. Goldsmith. So I think that you have to provide public comment time before you go into closed session for all the consent item decrees on your agenda, whether you're dealing with them or not.
Thanks for your opinions. Next.
Quintus Moore.
I'm Paula Miner. My card is next, but Mr. Moore asked me to speak first. I'm Paula Miner with Black Lives Matter, and I'm adding to the chief's report by giving the people's report on the significant event that happened last week, Tuesday, April 10th. Grechario Mack was murdered by LAPD in the Baldwin Hills Mall. Mr. Mack was not committing a serious crime for which the sentence would have been execution. He was in the mall too long and had a kitchen knife. He was experiencing emotional issues and an episode. True, he had been asked to leave the mall, but he had been there for hours and had not harmed anyone. When the police came, contrary to what Chief Beck said, they immediately started shooting, not trying to assess the situation or use any of the de-escalation tactics advocated so strongly for by Commissioner Johnson when he first joined this commission. Why? Because of LAPD's complete disrespect and disregard of black lives, especially black men, even a black man in distress. The next day, LAPD encountered a similar situation in a predominantly non-black area and were able to find those rubber bullets and de-escalate, and that person is still alive. That person had a machete, was called, was threatening. 7 shots hit Mr. Mack in the back. He was running away. He was trying to get out. He was shot. 4 of the shots took him down. They were non-life threatening. The 3 shots were fired into him as he laid on the floor. The community knows what happens. BLM has partnered with forensic pathologists to help the families, excuse me, and the communities know the truth about these continuing murders. Shame on you, Charlie Beck, and shame on your officers, and shame on the lies and deceit to the community. Stop the unnecessary killing. The father...
Next speaker.
Quintus
speaker.
Moore,
I don't
please.
want to talk to you.
It was ordained by the Lord. And if you have something to say
Hold on. Let him speak. You'll get a chance to speak.
court case,
Go ahead, sir.
family gonna have to deal with it. Don't
Let's-
bring that to the
Ma'am, let's let him speak.
not responsible for that officer action.
Ma'am,
Ordained. Everybody's time to go out is ordained.
ma'am,
We don't know how we gonna go out.
I'm going to have to ask you to. I'm going to have to ask you to leave if you can't let the speakers speak. You'll get your turn, please.
Mr.
Please.
Moore.
Thank you.
My name is Quintus Moore.
Go
That
ahead,
was-
sir.
That was my son, and the part about him not, the part about where they're lying and saying that he was acting violently, he had a knife, but he was not acting violently or threateningly at all. And this is the police commission. That's why we're here. So they are responsible for the officer's behavior. And my son was not a threat to anyone. Like they said, they were walking around, he was agitated and he was upset about something, but he never threatened anyone. He was walking around the mall for about an hour. I had family members that were police officers. Now my family, almost my entire family, hates the police department now because they took a vital part of our lives away from us. As they said, you know, a couple of days later, a guy had a big machete wielding it at officers. We saw it on the news. They used rubber bullets, took him down, subdued him, took the machete. A machete is a big, huge, like a sword, swinging it at him. My son was there all this time. Soon as they get in, soon as they come in, he's scared of the police. Now we see why. He started running away, and they shot him in the back 7 times. 3, 4 while he was standing. He fell. They walked over, shot him some more. They won't release the body cam. Why? If they have nothing to hide, why aren't they transparent? They won't let the family see the body cam video. This happened on April the 10th. My son is like the 8th person that's been killed and murdered by LAPD so far this year. So far. And I didn't even know until recently that LAPD kills more black men than any other police force in the nation. I never knew that. I thought it was Chicago or the East Coast. No, it's here right in LA. I never knew it until they killed my son. And it's a shame what they did to him and what they did to our family. He has 2 beautiful daughters. It's just awful. It's just awful what they did to our family. They just it's disgraceful.
And we have one late card, sir.
Protect and serve. They need to take that down.
We have one late card, sir.
No, we'll do that during public comment. We'll let the late cards start right now.
We have
Begin
no
with
other-
public comment.
We have no other cards. On the
Sorry?
we have no other cards on the chief's report.
Okay, so you can start with the late card and then go into public comment.
Okay. We have General Jeff.
Okay, we're just going to take then we'll take either one, whichever one you want to do. I know you do.
2 different nights.
No, I understand.
That's right. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is General Jeff from Skid Row. Speaking to the selection of the next police chief for the Los Angeles Police Department, we the people of Los Angeles and we the people of Skid Row still think that this commission should select and put forth an interim police chief while the mayor and the city council puts forth a new process to where we the people vote and elect directly our police chief instead of the mayor picking up someone. You know, that is vital to eliminate a lot of the insubordination within the department. We need to go in a new direction. It's time for change, and we the people need to have a say-so, just like we elect our mayor, we elect our city council members, and with the budget over $2 billion annually, it is time for we the people to have a say-so directly on who our police chief is, instead of this commission putting forth candidates. I don't even believe that the candidates are even shared and listed publicly anywhere. That is a big problem for us. Also, another issue, on the LAPD department just released their 2017 year-end homelessness report. There's a big emptiness there because there's zero of all those pages. There's nothing there about the funding. I had follow-up meetings with different members of the department, and they basically said all the funding goes towards salaries and expenses. We need itemized breakdown. If there's going to be a Safer Cities initiative, a HOPE team, a RESET team, a SMART team, we the people need to see, in terms of full transparency, we need to see the accounting breakdowns of the funding breakdowns. If it's in salaries, how many salaries equivalent go towards HOPE teams? If it's going to be, excuse me, ma'am, I got the floor.
Let him speak.
Hold my time.
Ma'am.
I don't know who you think you are. Don't interrupt me, lady. I don't know. What are you saying?
Jeff. Hey, Jeff.
You interrupted me. I don't give a damn what you tell me.
Jeff,
Stop interrupting me. I'm not
gonna stop. I'm gonna tell who you are.
We're going to ask Jeff, let us handle it. We're going to, Jeff, we'll handle it. Ma'am?
Get yourself out the situation. Who are you talking to? I'm talking to you.
My name is General Jeff.
I'm talking to you. I'm not
Stop grabbing on me.
Jeff. Ma'am, we're going to have to ask you to leave.
Jeff, we're going to give you
Ma'am,
your
we're going to
time.
ask, Jeff, I'm going to have to ask you to leave too. Jeff? We're going to ask the lady to leave. Ma'am, I've given you so many warnings. I'm really sorry, but we're going to have to ask you to leave now.
It ain't y'all fault all this stuff going on.
I know.
They been in jail. They know what's going on.
We're going to have to ask you to leave. I wanted you to have a public comment, but you've taken advantage of that. So we'll ask you to leave. Go ahead, please. Jeff's leaving.
No, they gonna keep coming at y'all. Everybody gotta work together.
You're going to have to leave or we're going to close the meeting down. Thank you very much. Happy to come back next time. Go ahead, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Shit, they done been in jail. They know what's going on in this
Thank you.
community. All over the whole world.
We'll see you another
It ain't
time.
Beck's fault.
Is this your property here, ma'am?
Who's the next speaker?
The next speaker is Mr. Herman, who's not present, and Mr. Novick.
Okay. Okay.
Love you, back. William Kerr. Droger. Mr. Maricola Scola from the Sheriff Department next chief.
Ma'am, thank you.
Or Mr. Larry Droger or Mr. Chris Barley. Tell Baca I forgive him. I love you, back. Get up off y'all motherfucking asses. Blaming it on these people.
So, Mr. Novick,
Set the clock.
this is public comment, sir.
Yeah, public comment is this a further display of the selective enforcement of your rules. You let this woman disrupt the meeting for 3 different public speakers before you removed her. Anytime anybody from Black Lives Matter, any supporters of Black Lives Matter speak up, they're out immediately. Shameful again on your part. I want to ask the Police Commission to come out in support of the measures introduced to the State Assembly and the State Senate regarding use of force by the police, restricting the criteria under which they can draw or fire their weapons, and removing the shield of secrecy under which all those killings take place. I think you're derelict in your duty if you don't come out publicly to support those legislative bills under consideration right now in Sacramento. I think you've been derelict in dealing with the chief. There was no further report on the processing of replacement for the chief, but I think that you should remove the chief now and put in an interim, as General Jeff suggested, and begin the process all over again. And again, I want to protest the fact that you removed all the items under the consent calendar. It's listed as 1 consent agenda items. You're putting it till after the closed business, meaning that you're not going to have the public here because people are not going to hang around for you to deal with 3 different officer-involved shootings that took place last year, and also a conference with legal counsel. So you're not listening to the public about the consent decree items. And I think that's, again, dereliction of your duty. I find you very, very offensive in the way you carry out your proceedings. So I think that at the end of this public comment, and before you go to closed session, you need to call the public comment cards on the consent decree items.
Next speaker.
Paula Miner, followed by Catherine Walker.
I agree with Mr. Novak on how that person who was disrupted was allowed to continue to disrupt us. Anytime anyone from Black Lives Matter or other partners does the slightest disruption, Mr. Soboroff, you immediately throw them out. So again, that's a lack of disrespect, and that's why we keep coming here, and that's why we say Black Lives Matter. Just a follow-up to my comments earlier about the incident in the Baldwin Hills Mall. As you are aware, Chief Beck, the windows were shattered in the GameStop. These are commercial establishments on the 2nd floor of the mall. The windows were shattered in the GameStop. A bullet or fragments entered TJ Maxx, so there was a hole in TJ Maxx window. Shots were fired, and there were indentations in the wall near the Sears. At the time that the shooting started, Mr. Mack was then trying to run away. Of course he was trying to run away. He understood that he was being pursued. So the shooting started in a mall where there were shoppers, mostly people of color. LAPD feels it's okay to shoot first and not de-escalate. Any of the black or brown shoppers in that mall would just have to be collateral damage. It was unbelievable. Once the scene was settled, there were baby bottles, pacifiers, strollers strewn left in that area. It was so wrong. The murder was wrong, but how it was handled was wrong. How it's a disrespect of that community is wrong. And you know that you're going to hear the name of Grechario Mack for 10 months because your investigators came to the family and said, it's going to take 10 months. Not that it could take less, but it will. Again, it's total disrespect. And my last comment, I won't be able to make it, has to do with allowing police to be the solvers of all the social problems in LA, mental health, homeless, and everything else.
Catherine Walker, please. Followed by Quintus Moore.
I am Catherine Walker. I'm the mother of Gershario Mack, and I would like to read the scripture that says from the Bible. I'm Gershario Mack. I'm Catherine Walker, the mother of Gershario Mack. I would like to read this scripture for all you to hear. If one be found slain in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee to possess it, lying in the field, and it be not known who slain him. Okay. Then thy elders and thy judges shall come forth, and they shall measure unto the cities which are around about him that is slain. That's part of it. When thou go out to battle against thy enemies and seest horses and chariots and people more numerous than thou, be not afraid of them, for the Lord thy God is with you, which brought you out from the land of Egypt. Okay, but he tells me not to be afraid. He tells me not to be terrified, because the Lord goes with me to fight my battle. And as his mother, I will fight for my son until no blood is in my body. May God be with anybody that took my son's life. Who is going to judge the one that killed my baby?
Say his name. Gershario Mack. Say his name. Gershario Mack.
The next speaker, please, Quintus Moore, followed by Jeremy Tramer.
Mr. Moore?
Yes, and I just want to elaborate on Ms. Miner said and Mr. Novak, that you can imagine everyone in here has family and children and grandchildren that attend the mall, go to the movies, go shopping. Girls love to go to the mall. And for this to happen in a crowded mall, where, as witnesses say, the security was just escorting my son around and keeping him calm for about an hour. Here comes LAPD coming in there like the Navy SEALs, frightens my son with crowded shoppers, and just as he's running away, just starts shooting him in the back with people, their babies, their kids. Like she said, one girl was working in Sears, just traumatized. Baby bottles strewn on the floor, strollers all around, people grabbing their babies. Just imagine. I'm sure you've seen A Time to Kill. Imagine if this was the Beverly Center or Delamo Mall or Fox Hill Mall. It never would have took place there in the first place. But just imagine if it had. I could see if he had a gun or people were in imminent danger. My son had a kitchen knife. He was agitated. He ran away as soon as he called the cops. He was scared of the police. They came in there like the Navy SEALs. They didn't come in there talking calmer, trying to calm him down, just guns drawn. He immediately got scared and ran. And as soon as he ran, they started shooting with all these people in the mall. I just don't understand it. And like Mr. Novak said, never in a million years would it happen at the Grove. Never in a million years would it happen at the Beverly Center. Never in a million years would it happen at the Fox Hill Mall. None of those places, none of that would have happened. And then I just don't understand it. I just can't understand it. I never will. God have mercy on you.
Jeremy Tramer.
I mean, I had a whole thing planned where I was going to talk about the bullshit from last week, where you all found the LAPD's killing of Eric Rivera in policy, but then that very night you went and killed someone else. You killed Gershario Mack, you killed their son, and I don't want to take the spotlight away from him and his family by talking about another case. So the Eric Rivera talk will have to wait for a week in which your officers didn't murder someone, so it could be a while. And the father of the person you murdered is right. Those words should not be up there, to protect and to serve, or at least add a word to the end. It should be to protect and serve ourselves, because you don't serve the people. This commission exists to protect and serve the LAPD at the expense of serving the people. You should all be ashamed of yourselves, and I think deep down you are.
Ravella Curl, who's not present, and Jacqueline Richardson.
The subject is holographs. Any one of you, I don't know that much about it. You probably know more about it than I do, but the little bit I know, I'll tell you. Any one of you could be a holograph, any one of you, including myself or any in the audience. They can have high-level positions, but they have to be programmed every day. Someone has to tell them what to say, what to do for that day. Sometimes they have 4 holographs. They program one a day, and they put that out and then program the other for next day. Most people, maybe 95% of the people today don't know there are such things as holographs. They don't know about it. And if they did know about it and they did something to them, they wouldn't know who to call. Who do they call? The police department? The police department knows something about it, but not everything. They have the patrolman on duty. They see things every day. Maybe somebody's walking before them. And
Mr. Moore?
I was hoping that we would get through public comment before you left. I just wanted to say to the Mack family,
pause the clock, please?
Thank you for coming today. It is way too little to say that we regret the loss of your son, and so, way too little. But what I did want to say is that I very much respect and appreciate your being here to speak on his behalf. And while, as a practice, we don't respond to comments that are made, I didn't want you to leave here today without knowing that we appreciate your being here. And really, it is, I can't imagine how difficult it is to be in a place and to make the comments that you came here to make. So I just wanted to say that I wanted to acknowledge that and to tell you how much we value and respect your taking the time. And Paula, thank you for supporting them. Thanks.
We are all very sorry for
Thank
your
you very
loss.
much. Okay, you can go ahead.
Any top official could be a holograph, but they have to be programmed every day. Most people don't know they're holographs, so they can't call and tell you they're having problems with holographs. One thing I'm not sure of, that there's such a thing as a holograph network. I may be wrong, but your GPS unit or your the unit that handles movie star follow-ups, they could probably handle that. I would believe the network would go this way, that way, and then cross that. Or it could go like this, starting a circle, that way. I'm not sure how that works. That's just a guess. I'm sure you know better than I how you would handle that. And I'm also sure that your patrolmen and your officers hear about holographs, but they don't know. People don't know what they are, and the police don't know what they are, so we're all dealing with a bunch of unknown factors. Other official agencies, they don't know about holographs either. They're starting from the ground up, and they're learning a little bit every day.
Thank you.
We have no other comment cards on this item.
Okay, let's go to item number 5A.
5A1, we have 2 comment cards. We have Mr. Herman and Mr. Novick. Mr. Herman's not present.
Yeah, I'll point out to the brother who said he was going to have to wait to talk about Eric Rivera till there was a week when LAPD didn't shoot anybody, that here you're looking at officer-involved shooting number 32, number 34, number 37 from last year within the month of May, last May. So if you're waiting for a week when the LAPD isn't shooting anybody, you're going to wait a long time. I can't believe that week after week you come in here and you rubber stamp in policy shootings and killings, animals being shot, people being killed, people being shot. You have here 4 police officers 3s, 2 police officers 2. In one case, 2 police officers 2, 2 police officers 3s, and another 1 police officer 2 plus 2. I'm not sure what that means. So that's 4, 6, 8, 9 officers this week. Week after week, you're looking at 9, 10, 16 officers involved in shootings and beatings and killings of animals, and you don't understand that it's a systemic problem. unfathomable to me. I want to insist again that after the end of the, before you go into your closed session, that you also hear the public comments on the consent calendar items that you postpone till after public session, because otherwise you're not allowing yourself to hear from the public on items of importance. People are not going to sit here and wait around until the end of your discussion of 3 different officer-involved shootings and a lawsuit against the city to wait to make a public comment about your consent decree items. So I think that you're derelict in your duty week after week if you're not drawing a conclusion about the nature of the department that you oversee, which is that it's a brutal, murderous, racist department that enforces white supremacy and exploitation by shooting and killing people week after week. Shame on you.
And we have Mr. Novick on item B, 5B.
There are no other comments on 5A 1, 2, or 3?
No, just B.
On 5B, Mr. Novick?
Yeah, on 5B, it's a lawsuit. You're having conference with legal counsel on existing litigation brought against the city by the Youth Justice Coalition. And I don't know the details of this lawsuit, but I can tell you that between the Los Angeles Police Department of the City of Los Angeles on the one hand and the Youth Justice Coalition on the other, that the people of the city trust the Youth Justice Coalition as standing up for the rights of poor and oppressed people, young people, people of color, people who have been through the system and understand what the school-to-prison pipeline is. And if you have any decency, you will immediately urge the city to settle this lawsuit by agreeing with whatever the Youth Justice Coalition is demanding. And since I have about a minute left, I'm going to make my points about the agenda items in the consent calendar, whether you allow me to do that or not. In item number 1, you want to approve.
I'm not going to allow you to do that, but we are. If you wait a second.
Yeah.
Mr. Tefank, go ahead.
Mr. President, I would recommend you take items 1A through H on the consent agenda at this time.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, then I'll complete my comments about the Youth Justice Coalition. I know that the city has finally agreed to give them a new property because the gentrification and construction in the Crenshaw area is forcing them out of their current facility. And I think that's a positive development, but I think that you need to deal with the fact that the gentrification that's going on in the area that they serve and where they have had their free LA High School and other programs is a serious problem. And the killing that took place in the mall is a measure of the fact that the LAPD is transforming the nature of the Crenshaw district to fulfill the development needs and the desires of people with a lot of money who want to build in that area and they're using the Crenshaw line through that area to transform the neighborhood, and the police are enforcing that transformation of driving black people out of their own part of town.
Okay, let's go back to item number 1. Do we have any commissioner comments on any of the consent items? No. Do we have any public comment on any of the consent item agenda?
We have 1 card on 1A and 1 card on 1H. And Mr. Novick?
Yeah, so item 1A is the department report.
Hold on for a second. Then let's, I'll move 1B, C, D, E, F, and G. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so what we have left is item 1A and item 1H, correct?
Yes, sir.
And those are the ones that Mr. Novick has a comment on?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Novick on 1A?
Yeah, item 1A is relative to the travel authority for the chief of police to attend the Major Cities Chiefs Association, the FBI National Executive Institute Associates, and the Police Executive Research Forum. I guess they're all taking place simultaneously in Nashville, Tennessee. I think this is a poor use of money for the department and a poor use of the chief's time. I think that the FBI is operating under a policy they've put out called identifying what they call black identity extremists. It's been demonstrated around the country that's being used to target and criminalize dissident black people, particularly from Black Lives Matter. And I would urge the department to boycott that hearing and that meeting, or if you do send a delegate, to protest the black identity extremist formulation that the FBI has concocted to criminalize and paint as terrorists, people who have been opposing and exposing police brutality around the country. And I think that several of these meetings, and the chiefs in particular, have put forward a strategy that they call community-oriented policing, which they identify in their own literature as the domestic equivalent of psychological operations in the military. I've pointed this out to you over and over again. What they're saying is that so-called community policing is a part of the militarization of police. It's a strategy for controlling what they call the population of the enemy. And they are identifying dissidents and people who oppose police brutality as the enemy. So I think that you have a responsibility, if you do represent any of the people in the city, to come out against those policies and those strategies, to oppose the militarization of police and counterinsurgency policing. And unless you're sending the chief to express those sentiments to the FBI and to the major cities Chiefs Association, I think you should refuse to finance that trip. Thank you for your...
Okay, we have a motion on item number 1A to approve it. Okay, all in favor to approve? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay,
Nay.
We're now on item number 1H. Mr. Novick?
Yeah, so once again, week after week, you're accepting donations from the Los Angeles Police Foundation and others. I can't comment on every single one, so I don't waste your time, but I want somebody in this commission to tally up the totals. This week, I think it's about $17,000. And I think it's outrageous that you're not informing people like the Olympic Boosters or the LA Dodgers or the Police Foundation that they should be putting their money into better, more community-oriented services. In this part, you're replacing rifle parts and searchlights. So this is part of your militaristic, counterinsurgency, surveillance police department. You have another almost $9,000 from the LA Police Foundation, which we know gets money from foundations that Mr. Soboroff is involved in. There's a clear conflict of interest there over and over again, week after week. I can't believe that anybody in this board that doesn't have the tenacity to totally up how much money has been donated to the LA Police Department on top of the more than half of the city budget that goes to them during the course of the year. So I would urge you to oppose this item on your consent calendar, to vote it down, and to direct the various agencies that have been giving that money to the LAPD week after week, that they should give the money to the Youth Justice Coalition or to the Black Lives Matter or to any one of the organizations, the Stop LAPD Spying, LA Community Action Network, that are actually serving the people of the city in the ways that the Los Angeles Police Department does not.
Just quickly, and I know we have to accept this item, Mr. Novak, I want to say to you that you're the first person to utter the black identity extremist designation by the FBI in this room. The department has not chosen, nor has the commission, to even dignify such an absurd declaration by the FBI. I can assure you that that is not being used to target African American activists in the city of Los Angeles.
We have a motion for approval on 1H. All in favor? Aye. Okay, let's next we'll go to closed session, adjourn to closed session.
The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss item number 5A, 1, 2, 3, and 5B in accordance with Government Code 54957. The Board of Police Commissioners has concluded its work in closed session. We are back in open session. In closed session, item number 5A1 was discussed and the Chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted. In closed session, item number 5A2 was discussed and the Chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted. In closed session, item number 5A3 was discussed and the Chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted. And in closed session, item number 5B was discussed. Mr. President, is there a motion?
So moved. All in favor? Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Excellent. Cut, print, we're moving on. Hi, I'm Shane Woodson on the set of Cain and Abel here in Hollywood. You're watching LA City View, Channel 35. Our city, our channel. Okay, I need my actors back on set, back in position.